Good evening, everyone. My name's Bronwyn, and I work in the Tasmania engagement team at the University of Tasmania. And we are here tonight to talk about our clinical pharmacy courses. Before we start doing that, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land across all of the places that you're joining us from tonight. Here at the University of Tasmania, that's the Palawa Pakana people. Respecting Indigenous knowledge and perspectives is something that this university is really committed to and something that you'll see throughout your time studying with us. What we're going to be talking about today is why you would even study clinical pharmacy, what the course options are, what study will actually look like, what does it consist of and involve. We'll talk about partner scholarships that are available. We've got an extensive partner network. Talk about how to apply, and then we'll have plenty of time at the end to answer all of your questions as well. Before I hand over to Colin, who really is the expert in all things clinical pharmacy, just wanted to share with you some thoughts from one of our former students who completed the Master of Clinical Pharmacy. I will share the link to his story so you can have a read. But he went through the entire master's program with us, and because of what he was able to do as part of the master's course, he's now on a pathway towards a PhD, and he'll be continuing his research into the reporting of adverse drug reactions. So he really enjoyed his time studying with us, and it set him on a whole new path in his career. So hopefully that might turn out to be the case for some of you as well. So it's time now for me to hand over to Colin. Dr. Colin Curtin is probably the very formal title, but we can just call him Colin tonight. Colin teaches the clinical pharmacy courses here, and he's going to be talking through all of the details and answering your questions about the course content tonight. He's a pharmacist with a background in both community pharmacy and hospital pharmacy, and he's also a former student of the University of Tasmania. He did both his undergraduate degree and his postgraduate, his PhD here at UTAS, and now he's teaching. So without further ado, here is Colin to talk you through why you would study clinical pharmacy.
Well, thank you for the introduction. As to teaching, I'm just going to add to that a little bit. I actually do a lot more coordination than teaching across all the units that are involved in the course, just to clarify that, but we can cover that more later on. So why study clinical pharmacy? I guess this slide covers the key issues that you want to expand your knowledge of various clinical areas, get more in-depth insight into medical conditions and how they're treated, how to choose between medication regimens for patients depending on their circumstances in more depth than would otherwise be available, because you're required to do a lot of your own research, and we've got all the resources, including Access Pharmacy and all the regular resources you might use, like therapeutic guidelines, and of course the medical databases that we can access as well. So that's one thing. Secondly, it may be because of how we do this, we teach entirely online. So it's generally more flexible to fit in with your life and your work-life balance. And I'll talk more about that later on in the slides. I think there's a slide that covers a few questions that people ask often. So one of the things, when it's fully online, it means there's no specific placement-based requirements. And also it's flexible enough that you don't have to attend at a specific time of the day to engage with a tutorial or something, or workshop that we might deliver. And again, I'll talk a little bit more about that later, because I know I've got a slide covering that as well. And whatever we're doing, we're doing it well, because we do have the major share of the educational provision of postgraduate clinical pharmacy in Australia. So we're doing something right there. We've had people from all around the country in various different time zones and very rural locations do the course as well. So what's the next step? Pathway to research. I'm just going with the slide pointers because they're pretty good. So as with Raymond Lee that was mentioned a slide or so back, this is a stepping stone to upskilling in a research space if you want to go down that path. A higher degree by research is another set of wording for doing a PhD or a doctorate. And we've had Raymond do that. We've had another lady, Naomi, do that. And we've had another lady who just finished her Master of Clinical Pharmacy last year. And now she's actually interested in following up, going down the PhD pathway as well through us at UTAS. I don't know whether to talk about it later or now, but I suppose if you choose to do the master research component of the courses that we're offering, then that can end up with you getting a publication, like a manuscript that you develop as a part of the course based on a project that you do. And if the manuscript is published, and a number of our students have published their work, that sets you up on a good, what's the word for it? A higher pedestal for when people are being looked at, when you're being looked at for, when you apply to do a PhD, they're going to look at your background, they're going to look at what research you've done, and if you have a publication with your own writing that looks really good, that's an extra plus for going down that track as well. And another reason that's not on the slide here is, I guess, for a lot of people around most of the country, if you work for a big organisation, there's often a pay incentive for having a higher level of skills when you develop that through your studies, whether you do the graduate certificate or the graduate diploma. Yeah, I think I've talked enough on that slide. That's the one to forward. Right, so we've got a couple of slides on exactly this, but start with this one. So we've got 3 courses that are offered. So graduate certificate is a 4-unit course. So it's made up of 4 different areas of interest that make up that degree, and that comprises a key unit called Introduction to Advanced Pharmacy Practice, which as a part of that unit that you have to do, it sort of teaches you how to be more critical with your reading medical literature. It teaches you how to search for good medical literature, and it helps you to answer those more complicated clinical questions. It also has several case-based studies, case-based assessment items, which is a common theme through all the clinical units. The graduate diploma, I'll stick with the graduate certificate for a bit longer. So there's 1 key clinical unit, and then there's 3 more optional clinical units, which you can pick from a choice of 5 different units. And each of these units covers a different area. So for example, 1 unit covers renal and respiratory, another unit is cardiovascular, etc. And you can find that when you Google UTAS and graduate certificate clinical pharmacy, for example. The graduate diploma extends on that, so it's an additional 4 units on top of the first 4 units you do in the grad cert. And there is a core unit for that one, which is to do with medication safety in vulnerable populations, which is a thing you have to do. And then 3 more elective units, which may be clinical units, but we've broadened it out quite a bit. And there's a lot of units that cover particularly things that people in hospital might be interested in, such as clinical redesign, epidemiology, and several other sort of varied options that people may choose to do. But again, if you Google UTAS and then type graduate diploma of clinical pharmacy, it'll show you the list of all the units that are available as core and elective there. And the next step, once you've done this bit, is to go on to the Master of Clinical Pharmacy. Not a lot of people choose to do that because it's that much extra work involved. But for those that do, again, there's 2 options. Currently, there's the option of doing a smaller audit project and having a few more elective units to be done. And the other option is to do a bigger research project. And that's where, if you do a bigger research project, that's where you can end up with a potential publication at the end of that. But again, it's not a big thing for a lot of people, and I'm not sure, but I'll have to check with Bronwyn on that. I'm not sure about the HEX discounting for the master component of the course, but we'll come to that later. And there's something else I had to say about the Master of Clinical Pharmacy, and I've completely forgotten. So we'll continue on and it'll come back to me. So as I've mentioned before, oh, there you go, it's all on the screen. I should have just been quiet before. So these are nested courses or stackable courses. You do one course, then continue on into the graduate diploma, then continue on into the master's. It is possible for you to directly enroll in the grad dip or into the master's, but I would recommend doing smaller chunks first. It's more practical for most people. Doing the grad certificate, you'll know whether you can be set up in your work-life balance to be able to do that before jumping into a bigger degree initially. So that's my recommendation, is do it in small chunks. So if you complete your grad certificate, you can then enroll in the graduate diploma and have all the units you've done for the graduate certificate recognised as a component into your graduate diploma, and so on from the graduate diploma to the master's. Yeah, that's all on that slide, I think. So what have we got here? Each course. Okay, so how we study, I guess. Because pretty well everyone is working full-time or part-time, we've sort of set it up to be very self-directed learning. So you're going to have to do a lot of your own reading, studying, and we touch base with workshops and tutorials online. And typically we would have probably across the units, the clinical units at least, probably every 2 weeks we have a tutorial, but we're not a big, what am I trying to say? We have enough people on staff that we can have more frequent discussions, whether it be private Zoom sessions, phone calls, emailing back and forth to discuss any issues you might have or concerns about understanding a topic or due dates and so on, or what's required. All the tutorials that we do conduct online, they're usually via Zoom. They're all recorded and you can always access it later on. And that's particularly important because, you know, if we have a 12 o'clock Wednesday lunchtime session, a lot of people may not be able to make that. And also 12 o'clock lunchtime in where I am in Tasmania or Melbourne or Sydney is not the same time as someone who's in Perth, Western Australia. So we often have these recorded to be available for review at any stage. There's lots of reading, and if you can attend a workshop or a tutor, we can discuss things online. But we also have discussion boards within the unit through the Milo learning platform, so you can post questions there and various people can respond to those. And assessments is another thing I should cover. So there's a variety, but typically we've got some short quizzes. Most units have assignments because we're online, we can't do much else. So you'll have to be able to write according to whatever the assignments require. And for many units, but not all, we usually have some presentation topics which are assessed as well. And that may be that you present a mini audit or some informational thing on a particular topic to assessors, which may be myself or Mohammed, who's my colleague who does a lot of the clinical pharmacy teaching, and or to the tutors, as each of our clinical units has a tutor that specialises in that area assigned to them as well. Yes, so the presentations are done online and they're marked. And they're typically poster presentations or slideshow presentations. Okay, that's that one.
Great. So this one's back to me to talk about some of the Health Partner scholarships that we have in place. So very good chance that you found out about this webinar tonight through your workplace. And that's because we have a really wide range of partnerships with different healthcare providers all over the country. And we're able to provide some generous HECS fee waivers or fee discounts that will reduce the cost of study. You'll have noticed when you filled out the registration form, there was a question on there about where you work, and that's so I can make sure that I give you the right fee waiver information following this session. So this session's being recorded. I will email the recording out afterwards, and I'll also confirm what the agreement is in place with your workplace, provided you submitted it. What you can also do, though, if you like, is jump on our website, go to study/partners/health, and there's an A to Z listing there of all of the partners. Something that I found through chatting to people about these the last couple of days, trips people up, is that we have an umbrella agreement for New South Wales Health and Victoria Health, which covers lots of little individual ones. So don't panic, you don't see your employer's name there right away. To be eligible for these HECS scholarships, you would need to be eligible for a Commonwealth supported place. So a Commonwealth supported place, they're only available to domestic students, and domestic students are Australian citizens, permanent residents, humanitarian visa holders, and New Zealand citizens. And then at the point that you enroll, you'll need to complete a health partner employee declaration as you're doing that. And this is something that we can follow up with individually with everyone, because everyone's situation will be slightly different and it's sort of quite complex. So definitely keep chatting online about this as we after this session. Something I forgot to mention as well right at the beginning is that as we were going through everything, if you have any questions at all, it'd be wonderful to get them now. You'll see it's on my screen, it's at the bottom, and there's a Q&A button in the Zoom bar. Just pop all of your questions in there. I'm going to jump back to Colin briefly now on this next slide. So some of the most commonly asked questions he gets, but if there's anything else you'd like to know, we've got some time set aside at the end, but please type them all in now so that make sure that we've got time to get through everyone's questions. So, Colin, how much time should a person dedicate to studying this course each week?
We shouldn't have filled these out, because we filled in the answers
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
How much time? Yeah, 10 hours per week per unit is the general guide. That seems to work for most people, which then leads into question 3. How many units should you enroll in one semester? So if you're working full time and you're just starting, you could do 1 unit to see how you're coping with that. But most people who are fairly organised and have a little bit of spare time to study can do 2 units a semester. I wouldn't recommend more than that unless you're working very part-time, or if you're having time off from work for a period of a semester, because that's too much reading and writing and so on for most people to do otherwise. We've already covered the video tutorials. Yes, they all are recorded, but attend where possible. I mean, early on in the semester, we'll put out what's the wording for it? We'll put out little online discussion board posts about when would most people like to or be free to attend these tutorials, and we'll do our best to try and organise around a time and day during workday hours to get that sorted. Do you need to commit to classes every week? Unlike, say, undergraduate study, no, you don't, because we sort of organise it because we know that you're hardworking professionals and you're busy. So there's no commitment to classes every week, but there is commitment that you need to allocate some time during your working week and weekend to allocate time to reading, writing for assessment tasks, and learning information. So some of the things that we provide, and we've got some online videos and a lot of reading. Some of the things you'll have to do will be to do a bit of research. So if there's a particular quirky case study, I can't think of a topic at the moment, but let's say it's COPD and there's some question is being posed, then it's up to you to find the resources to answer that question. And we guide you to the resources, but you've got to spend the time reading the literature around that topic to answer the question, and that's up to you how you choose to do your time. I mean, I've had people that have found studying in the morning before their working day began, and it's rare, but people who get up particularly early in the morning to do that suits them. Others, it's in the evening, others cram more on the weekends. And occasionally, although we don't get many pharmacists from defence around Australia, but we do have them occasionally, they will do studying in blocks. So the entire material of the unit is presented to you on day one when you go into the unit to do the study. And for example, the people that are in the Army, Navy, or Air Force who are pharmacists there, they have periods of time where they are blocked out from accessing internet or anything like that. And so when they're blocked out, they can't do any study. When they are back on shore, I guess, or whatever the word is, they then can access the entire unit and catch up and fill in their times to make up for what they missed out. So it's unusual. So I wasn't that familiar with Defence Force pharmacists and their limitations, but it's made it quite flexible for a number of them as well. I ran out of things to say.
That's all right. We'll talk about the application process now. And one thing to mention, I'm sure you're all familiar with the concept of semesters from your undergraduate degrees, but just to confirm the timing of how we do it at the University of Tasmania, semester 1 is late February through to June, and semester 2 is mid-July through till sort of late November-ish, then with a sizable break over between semester 2 and semester 1 the next year. So for the actual application process, so one thing that's different about the University of Tasmania for those of you who are joining us from interstate or the mainland, as we call it, applying with the University of Tasmania is free. You don't have to pay any fees. It's not like QTAC or UAC or VTAC where you need to pay fees. You just jump onto our website, utas.edu.au/apply and go through the step-by-step process in the application portal. You'll need to provide some information there about your previous study that you've done to make sure that you meet those eligibility requirements that were shown on a previous slide. After that point, so long as you're eligible, you'll receive an offer, which is all done over email. You log back into the application portal and hit accept. I can see there's a fantastic question that has been asked in the chat about receiving credit for prior study. And Colin has answered it that yes, we do provide credit for prior study. Where that happens is in between this offer and then wage. So once you've received an offer and accepted it, you can then jump over to our credit portal and submit an application for credit. And one thing there that the team encourage is that you do that at least 2 weeks before classes commence. So there's plenty of time to process everything. And I will send out a little blurb and a link to where you can go to find out more information about that process. But yes, we certainly do provide credit.
And I'm going to add to that a little bit because people
sure.
apply for credit for things that they really shouldn't. So just clarify. So if you've done intern training programs around the country and you're wanting to apply credit for those units, they aren't suitable for credit applications for prior learning for these courses. Just wanted to clarify that. And one more thing is, at the most, it's a university-wide ruling, no more than 1/3 of a course, whether it be the grad dip or whatever it is that you do with us, no more than 1/3 can be, what's the word for it, pre-credit approved? I can't think of the right wording.
Yeah. So yeah, the final step after receiving your offer and accepting it is to enroll, which you will be sent plenty of information on how to do, and there's all sorts of support sessions that go on during that time. We also do have a question that's been asked a little bit in these webinars. It's about orientation sessions. If it's been a little while since you're undergrad or you want to get familiar with all of our systems at the University of Tasmania, there are online orientation sessions that you can participate in, so it's not just something for on-campus students. And the other point I'd like to make just about being online study is that even though you will be studying online, you still are a student of the University of Tasmania and you are just as entitled as anyone else to come in and use our facilities. So I'll open it up for questions, and what I'll do is I will turn on everybody's mics rather than making everyone type. So you'll all be on mute, but you can just hit the unmute and ask a question or make a comment or whatever you would like to do. So we'll give see if anyone feels brave to or you're still welcome to type if you would like. But are there any questions at all from anyone about any of the content that we've presented tonight?
I have a question probably for Colin. This is Emma here.
Yes.
I noticed that the maximum time you can take for the grad cert is 1.5 years, which would be 3 semesters. Are there any suggestions for fitting like 4 units into 3 semesters, of like which semester or what units are sort of good to be doubled up in terms of like workload, etc.?
Yep, sure. I've got a couple of answers to this one. So that's a tricky, good question. Potentially, when you're first starting, you could try enrolling in 2 units in 1 semester when you first enroll. Now, you've got a period of time to see or to feel whether you can manage 2 units in 1 semester. And if you feel that you can't manage 2 units in 1 semester, you can withdraw from one of those units. So let's say you did 721, which is the required one, and 722. There we go. And let's say within the first month, roughly, after you've enrolled, if you find it's too much of a struggle, you drop 722. And that's the thing at the university. We've got something called the census date, and it's published everywhere, and you can always ask us about it as you're doing your studies, which is usually about a month to 6 weeks after you've started. It's about a month after you've enrolled and started in the unit. It's a time limit where you are allowed, without any financial penalty or whatever, to drop a unit. That's one thing. Secondly, you could, if you felt like you're going to struggle anyway, just do 1 unit per semester, and presuming you're a good student and you pass each unit each semester, once you've done 3 semesters worth or 1.5 years worth of study and you've got 3 out of 4 units completed, during that last semester or that last period of study time, you can actually request an extension for the course by another 6 months. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen for people that struggle with time or for whatever reason that they've got, or maybe they failed a unit or 2 and they need a bit more time to complete. Although that doesn't happen too often, but it does. But that's one option. And that's probably the best next option, I would say. The final third option, I wasn't going to suggest it, but I will, is if you do 3 units, say, across the 1.5 year duration, you could re-enroll in the course and have those 3 units accredited. And then you've got 1.5 years to complete the final unit. That's not an ideal option, but the second option is the best, asking for a 6-month extension to the duration of the course. That has to be approved by the head of school, the head of the College of Health and Medicine, but it's usually a tick box exercise which just allows you to get that done. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer. What's the next question?
That's okay. And Colin, I might get you to clarify. I know with a lot of our undergraduate programs and stuff, there are summer semesters that people are able to do. Yep. I imagine that's not the case with this course, that every unit is just offered semester 1 and semester 2 and not in any of those in-between periods?
Almost all units are offered in semester 1 or semester 2. There's a couple that I have to open up my other screen. Let me just have a look here. There are a couple of units which we don't teach directly, but other schools around the University of Tasmania teach, and a couple of those are available in that spring or summer semester period, but it's only about 2 or 3 units, and they're not clinical units. They're things such as, don't quote me because I'll have to look up each one individually, things like biostatistics, system thinking in public health, introduction to public health, introduction to epidemiology. Some of those broader outside of pharmacy specific units may be available in those time slots.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions at all? pause with an awkward silence for a moment. Okay, that's totally fine. If there's anything that anyone thinks of after this, as I mentioned, I will send out an email within the next day or so with some more links to some of the things that we've talked about tonight, and also confirmation of what, based on your employer, what a HEC scholarship might look like for you. When I finish this webinar, you'll get a survey pop up on your screen, just a couple questions to see how we can possibly improve in future, and if the clip might hit the mark and answered your questions. Please be very open and honest with your feedback. We want to make sure that these sorts of sessions are useful, seeing as you've given up your part of your evening to come along. But I guess without, yeah, we may wrap up then, unless I'll give one last little chance for people to ask a question.
Can I just add something? Sorry.
Yes, go for it.
The other tricky question about the course duration, I just want to say one more thing, because it just came to me. If you are enrolled in a larger course, let's say you, instead of enrolling in the graduate certificate, you directly enrolled in the graduate diploma, which is a longer duration, you'll see on the website, you can actually exit once you've done 4 units with a graduate certificate. So that's another option for people considering that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And I guess the other thing to mention as well, that once you've completed a unit, you've completed that unit. So even if you didn't make it as far to get all the way to an award, if you did 2 units and then life got too difficult, if you come back later on, those units have still been done. So you don't lose like anything that you've already done. But yeah. Okay, well, thank you all so much for taking time out of your evenings tonight to come and listen to us talk about clinical pharmacy. And thank you so much, Colin, for sharing all of your knowledge about the courses. And I hope that we will see some of you, if not all of you, as students at the University of Tasmania in future. And yeah, if you've got any questions between now and semester 2 starting, you've got my email address. You can reach out and I'll find the right person to answer those questions for you. So thanks so much, everyone, and good night.
Thank you.